He's smiling already. And I wonder if I said, what should I talk about with Danny? I wonder what do you think people would say, Danster?
About me?
Yeah, if I said, oh, what do you want me to talk to Dan about? You know.
Pretty eclectic left field stuff, couldn't it, really?
Yeah?
But
Uh-huh.
we're going to stick with cricket, aren't we?
Are we?
I don't know. You tell me.
Chewing the cud, brother. That's kind of what happens. It's
not bad here, though. No here, but out there it's pretty good.
Yeah, don't mind it. I hope you like the picture in the background.
Where are we?
We are in St. Kitts, and I know we could kind of be doing this on the beach, or we could be
on the beach.
yeah,
It's Rio.
There you go. Okay, there you go. And we're doing the Caribbean Premier League. We were just together in the States, right?
MLC.
Tell me a bit about CPL, actually.
CPL, it's been going since 2013, Pom.
Yeah.
I've been grateful enough to be on all of them from all season, 2013.
Yeah.
And at different stages of it, really, because you had pre-COVID, and so then you had two crews.
Right.
Yeah, so two sides of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And you could do an afternoon game.
Yeah.
With, say, crew A over there, and then crew B might be down in Trinity or Jamaica on that side of it.
Yeah.
And say crew A were over this part of the world.
Right, eastern side.
Yeah, so it was on the eastern and western side. So look, it had that, and that was probably for the first 4 or 5 years or so, and then sort of later into, you could tell into sort of 17, 18, 19, it was still like that.
Yeah.
And then COVID came along and changed the landscape forever. And so now we've really only got one crew, and we hop around, don't we? Sort of move down the Caribbean from the east, where we're starting here, and then just cruise on down and end up in Guyana, who have paid for the finals.
Right.
It's about governments buying into it.
Yeah.
And so they've got the finals last year, this year, 23 and 24.
Okay. And as 2020 tournaments go, franchise cricket tournaments, tell me about what you feel about their fit in this great game. So in the landscape, and if I can paint what the landscape is, international cricket as a whole, whether that be test match cricket or one-day cricket or 2020 cricket, and the culmination of all those things is Test Championship final, recent of course, and World Cup finals, 50 overs, and 2020 World Cups, which are more frequent. Yeah, how does 2020 cricket and franchise cricket fit into all of that, and what's it doing to it all, in your mind?
And before we get a black eye punch badly, you throw into the massive mix now of the women's game. So you throw both of those all together almost, apart from the Test Championship, I get that, bits and pieces, and they don't tend to play a lot of Test cricket. So it's mainly white ball cricket. But when you think about how these, particularly with franchise cricket, let's stick with that, because I tend to do mainly that, is that you've now got the marrying up there with the women's game, haven't you? You see that the 100, they kick things off, and you've got that overlap.
Yeah,
there.
I forgot that format. And 100, I suppose some people will call it 2020 as well, but franchise cricket.
Yeah, true. So in terms of the franchise setup there, the women as well, particularly here in the Caribbean, we had the 60, and that's another version that was thrown on there.
Before we go to T10.
So you had that, and so then again, you're looking at the just explosion, if you like, of franchise cricket, and the women of the IPL have got their standalone scenario now. Big Bash have had that, England have had that for the women as well, and then you've got here dovetailing into the Caribbean Premier League, the women having a set up there and having some games and exhibition stuff that's trying to build a league here, which is totally acceptable and brilliant, and that's happening more and more. So when you think about how much cricket's played, it's fascinating, isn't it? So much more overlapping at tournaments, and you're going about international cricket you just mentioned, where that's got that pocket and that timing, let alone Test cricket.
Yeah.
You've then got this World Championship, and plus you're trying to do the odd bit of night Test cricket with a pink ball.
Yeah.
throw that in. It's just incredible how there are so many formats, and the timing of the calendar was always going to then get compromised. You just can't get around that because everyone in major regions wants that window. And when you've got that window, in particular that December, January, February, March, sort of down under really, and then across where you've got, Bangladesh have their one there.
Yeah.
Then you've got a little bit with this whole IL thing starting in the UAE. South Africa have got theirs up and running again and cranked that to another level. The Big Bash is there, and then you've got the Pakistan Super League getting squashed back in there because, of course, the almighty IPL, and that's going to get bigger, and that window's going to come back further, isn't it, to March? So it's hectic to say the least with a capital H, isn't it? It really is full on.
And would you, good, bad, indifferent, where are you with it? And I know you're an adaptable sort of guy, as in you understand, that we don't have a monopoly on people's enjoyment. Anyone can enjoy whatever they enjoy. And the landscape is the landscape, and you must adapt as you kind of go along. So tell me what your thoughts are in that regard as this kind of grows, and does it shrink the international game at all, do you think?
It's interesting because it's almost like, when I put it in film text, it's the different genres.
Yeah.
So you think about Test cricket, which is clearly a lot slower, in a way needs less talk around it, and you can let the pictures breathe, as we say in the trade. So you have less discussion. You don't have to.
Yeah.
But now that the game is sped up, it's fascinating. Everyone goes on about baseball. I'm sorry, Brent, I know you don't like it. It's just the way it is. It's baseball. It's been the logo. So the speeding up of the game of Test cricket, you really saw that because of the franchise game, and just the spirit of just boom, 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 isn't it? It's just got bigger. So where I think it sits is it's got its own window of white ball, and it's just getting more and more condensed. Whereas Test cricket, people are often asking that question, aren't they? Do you think it's the death of Test cricket there? Well, clearly you can't buy history, and the Ashes is massive. You know that. We just had another fabulous series, and India being this massive, if you like, inverted commas, the ownership partly really, because the sheer numbers and weight of it, and however you want to dress that up, it is what it is. I think it was 80 cents out of every dollar.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
That's how much
Comes
it's
out.
more. It's more than that, actually.
Yeah, so it's really up there, and that morphing into this big thing of the IPL and the women's game, and then international cricket for India, the men's team I'm talking about, is more and more of that. So you've got the big three, and then you had that. Remember that pulling away of the big three? It was an interesting dynamic, wasn't it? England, Australia, and India, where so much of the game's money and wealth is set up. We all appreciate that. But I just think the white ball game, particularly franchise, helps feed the rest of the lesser lights at the, if you want to sort of at the trough. So I don't think it's a bad. I think the game's needed, and I think different vernaculars of the way we deliver the game. I think you've got to have fun with it, and it's easy for me to say because that's my brief.
Yeah.
I tend to be a little bit the left of centre of the spectrum, have a lot of fun with it.
We'll get to that.
Yeah,
we'll get to that.
But I think you're trying to embrace a younger audience. As you rightly said, look, we've got no monopoly on people's entertainment, what they want to watch, and that's great because if you're a little bit more conservative and you want to watch Test cricket and you love it, and that's your major love, and you're perhaps my age and older, we don't have to be. You still might just love Test cricket, right? And that may be more of your brief, and you like the game that's spread out, a game of chess and takes time to evolve. Whereas this one's a bit more razzmatazz and entertainment, bash boom, cheerleaders, music, lights, camera, action. Some of us fiends diving in and out of swimming pools and having fun. That's what it is, and it's just a different audience. So it's about like, do you like action-packed drama, or do you like a rom-com? Or do you like a real serious spy thriller drama? Or do you like a more emotive thing of drama around relationship type stuff of a movie genre? So again, I just think you're just wearing different hats. For you and I particularly, and particularly more so you. I don't tend to do as much Test cricket anymore. It's just the nature of what's gone on.
Right. I suppose essentially, as some sort of balance is being struck, because many balls in the air, and kind of got to try and make sure that they're all being juggled okay and none are dropped, if that's the decision, I guess. And so over time, and it will take time, whether that is the franchises take over and cricketers belong to them rather than to their countries, not as retired cricketers, but as people at their peak. Maybe that's kind of where we're headed, especially with so many of the leagues being around. And you might, and I don't know that you get a window per se, but despite the year-long stuff, it would be a case of, my paymasters are so and so, and what you pay me as the Australian Cricket Board, the New Zealand Cricket Board, England Cricket Board, the South African Cricket Board, the Zimbabwean Cricket Board, whoever, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, name them all. It pales into insignificance, actually, and I played just for the prestige of being a national player rather than to earn money from it, whereas it was the other way around for such a long time. So that balance is kind of supposed to be struck somewhere, so that we then know what the landscape is like. And I suppose it won't stay forever. It could also shift further down the line, as this is a shift. Think back to 1977, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, 50 over cricket starts there, limited overs as well. Let's talk about your commentary. Let's talk about what you think of what you do and how you do what you do. Right?
Yes.
Because it's not just me. He's a little bit different to use those words.
Yeah. Look, I also love what I do. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And for here on Mbangwa Media, if you haven't seen parts of other interviews where I come from a thespian background. My mother did a drama diploma when I was 11 or 12, and so I was around these very eclectic types, very interesting types. So, in doing some pantomime when I was around that age, in between playing a bit of rugby, soccer, cricket, we just did everything. Athletics, had fun as youngsters, and tried everything. So this was what I was trying, because I moved from one part of Auckland to another.
Right.
And so what I was, if you like, those intermediate years were 11 and 12-year-old, I wasn't playing any organised cricket really, a little bit at school, and hadn't really got exposed to much to it until 77, Lilly and Hadley and Confrontation. But going to the Maidment Theatre in Auckland on Saturday mornings to do other things, to do sculpting with pottery, my mother, and again, doing pantomime and just learning different theatrical things and being comfortable about, like sitting on a stage like this with chairs and pretending we were like on Star Trek, on the bridge of a ship, a spaceship. And so there was that sort of thing, and you go into different genres and they'd ask you to then, okay, you're going to be this character, that, and this is what we're painting quickly, and they'd do that, like these little, producer directors behind the camera. And so we got on, and so it really did expose you to some very interesting types. So again, solo mother, some different boyfriends came and went a little bit when I was growing up, and they were a little bit different too. So when I look at that upbringing, it was a little wild, and it was a little liberal, and it was a little different. So part of that, I think, shaped what I'm about. And then in terms of commentary, particularly because of T20 and the razzmatazz, I think we're at the start of IPL, if you like. Just on the other, prior to that, around that same time was the Standard Bank Pro 20, and Pro 20 there, where you did that so extraordinarily well, where you had sliding down Zoom slides, and I was up
some
there.
people,
not
everyone,
and kids getting dunked. So there was this whole thing of the Americanism of the game, if you like, flowed into cricket, and then you remember that shaker thing.
You had
to and it involved punters to get up, so fans could get up, and actually the youngsters a bit more obviously, but fitter in there, could get on these different paraphernalia. It's just the contraptions of things, wasn't it? It was just bizarre. And so that led me, I suppose, Pom, to then lead to getting more excited and getting more animated, and probably branching out. When you think about Test cricket and having worked, the likes of guys I played, you know, Ian Smith and Marty Crowe, and different guys there at that time, and then, you know, with Ravi and Adam Wilkins and Sonny Gavaskar, particularly either in India doing a commentary stint, back in New Zealand when the guys would come and visit, would do that there, and it was so much slower.
Yes.
And when I look and listen to myself there mumbling and trying to get through stuff, it was just difficult because it was, I found it was just too slow. And I'm not too ADD, but I'm excitable and have fun. The two most, you know. And so when T20 came along, man, and you think about Pro 20 in South Africa, that's 07, 08, 09 time. Then you think about the explosion of the IPL, and then that morphing into other tournaments. Just led for me to be up and going, because you had the fireworks, you had the cheerleaders, you had the music, you had musicians. You had, in a way, and this is the way I like to paint it, is that when the first 10 years of it in the IPL was that you had Bollywood marries cricket, and they came together, and it was a lot more theatrical, wasn't it? Even the studio stuff, that I think was on Sony Max or whatever, they had it, and it lent itself for us to come on as guest occasions and have a lot of fun. I used to get dressed up sideline with the presenters and stuff, and I loved that, because that was that theatrical side where I could dress up and look like Elton John with a beret on, and you were the guys, Pommie and them like with Dooley in a bar, and they're going, look, my God, what is Mad Max Morrison doing? But I loved it. I could get in and I could embrace that side of it, and the crowd. And I think, you know, Indian fans, because they're excitable too, and they love Bollywood. Bollywood's massive, right? And so you get that side of things, and that just, I think that really just sparked me up even more.
I suppose IPL at the start needed the piggyback of Bollywood to say, we too are sort of showbiz, but now doesn't really need it. There's just the normal cross-pollination in all areas of Indian society, and kind of in the rest of the world, wherever it's consumed as well, where there is an acceptance that this is a show on its own now, isn't it? I mean, it's been going a long time, 15, 16 years.
I think, would it be fair to say to you, putting this back on you, having talked about me, it's got more serious. Once it left the Bollywood thing after 10 years and moved there, you think about the graphics and everything, it has, isn't it?
It's got a whole lot more cricket. So, and I suppose cricket DNA is, you know, what's happening on the field, and this is serious business, and you know, win game, lose game, and it's not more about the fun of it than it is about the stuff. So the fun's about what's happening on the cricket field, even though there's stuff around. I mean, social media and stuff where the teams themselves have got to doing stuff that's off field, but very much serious on the field, and kind of striking that balance of, yes, it's about showbiz and razzmatazz, but on the field it's serious cricket.
Well, it's on another level financially, let's be honest about it.
So you
Money
can't
talks,
exactly, you're gonna be messing about and people paying heaps of money, you know, so that's kind of how it's gone. Do you reckon you kind of were a bit clairvoyant about all this and recognized the direction everything was taking, and because it seemed you took a kind of decision to be Danny Morrison on screen, which when I say to people, Dan's not always like that.
No.
They don't believe me.
Right.
I mean, he's not dour and, you know, quiet and doesn't say anything. But you're not always like, you know, what happens on screen.
You'd be burnt out.
So do you reckon you're clairvoyant and you saw this coming a long way away?
Yeah, and that's what people think. Well, you know, then are they labelling him more schizophrenic? Then it's like, hang on a minute, this character. Well, not really, because as I've always said that, when you are working on this game, calling it, and then either in front of it with it, it's very much in terms of, again, I've mentioned the film industry, where genres are different. And so there are, as we in the trade know, light and shade. And when you're really up, you're up because the ball's disappeared into the crowd rather than just being caressed down to third man for a single, right? It's very different. So there's times when you really get up. And then for me, as you say, off camera, like you can't. And you just, sometimes there's quite a serious discussion, quite an in-depth, emotional discussion. So then you're away from being who you are as the commentator in front of camera and doing your job. It's a bit like, I suppose you go to see your doctor. Well, he's doing a serious job and looking after you, and then he may go away and layer up, have a drink, relax, socialise, he's doing his thing. When he's a bit more serious with his job, or the dentist, quite different people, aren't they? Yeah, of course. I think life would be boring without that. I mean, you think you get up beautifully too. Get up, get excited, get passionate, rev it up. And then, but you like to get more in depth and talk deeper about the situation that's going on. I tend to be, if you like it there, in, out, quite short, punchy there, and leave there. And in a way, and this is not blowing smoke up my own bum, I sort of know my role to let you guys to get more in depth. So from my perspective, in talking with executive producers, is that I'll give you more airtime to talk about. I can be glitzy bang boom, and particularly I'm talking T20 here. We just haven't got time. We need to let guys like yourself and Bish get either very in depth about a situation, the graphics come up, Hawkeye comes up, and that's great. And I can do that too if I'm not leading. But when you're leading, it's a different thing, isn't it? As opposed to being colour and expert. So again, that's different. People go, geez, isn't it? Him and that.
And I suppose it's also a balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like you say, if all of us are like Danny,
yes,
or if everybody's like me, or if everybody's like Bishop, or if everybody's like Ravi, or if everybody's like Sonny, or whoever, Athers,
it'd be bland a little.
Massa, all of them, different strokes, different folks, and mix and match, and you get a decent sort of concoction. And
that's and doing this industry, you've got to have a laugh, right? And I tend to do a lot, but also you got to be thick-skinned because there's people there, and if you're going to watch this clip now, particularly the UK and New Zealand, I'm going, oh God, man, I'm changing the channel. Morrison's come on, and your guts feel like, oh, it's just too much. Morrison's too much.
Tell me how you deal with that. How do you deal with that?
Oh, I just look at well, sometimes I just send back an emoji and blow a kiss. Or, mate, change the channel. Or the other one is just turn the sound down.
If you don't like it.
If you don't like it, that's cool. But often now, my God, there's such a bombardment. You just don't even bother. The people choose what they want.
Correct.
If you don't like that, then just don't. Turn the sound down, change the channel. Wait till I've gone. Come back later.
As I said, nobody has a monopoly on the enjoyment of people and the opinions of people and what they'll like and what they'll not and so forth. Anyway, I thought we'd just catch up and that's it. That's our catch up done actually. As we leave everyone, do you want to tell them to subscribe? Hey, how do they do it? On YouTube. It is on YouTube. So they got to subscribe. You press a button.
Can you do that? Mbangwa Media, get on with it. Just push click, and we'll see more of you. Have more madness.
See you, folks. Ciao.